I won't hold it against this game at all that I had to spend my entire weekend grinding while struggling to beat the last two bosses. I'm not mad about that at all. My whole weekend. Xenoblade Chronicles. So for those of you who watched my review of American Reunion, you might remember this bit. And if you like this review, please subscribe. Now I'm going to go see what the big fuss about this game is. That was the day the game came out, and 6 months later I finally beat it. Some stuff kind of prolonged my completion of the game, but needless to say, the hype for this game has kind of died down a bit, but screw it. I put 82 hours into this game, I'm talking about it. So Xenoblade Chronicles, the big post-Skyward Sword re-release, all that effort was made to get Nintendo of America to bring this game to the US. It actually paid off. So what can I say about this game? An attack on a village leads to a quest for revenge, which leads to characters beating other characters, which leads them to seeing things from a different perspective, and adding additional motivation, and then you learn more about the supposed bad guys, and then from there the game just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it just doesn't stop. Again, 82 hours. So at its core, the game is actually about this sword called the Minato. And I have to admit, this thing is actually kind of awesome. Like, it drives the plot and it drives the combat in a game with the power of foresight. So in the middle of a fight, you get a vision of someone about to die, and in the game you can warn the character that they're about to die and have them block, or you can have the sword itself save them. If I were to talk about the combat in this game, I would kind of compare it to like an MMO. Like, you approach an enemy, and you have your auto attack that you just do without pressing anything, and then you have your set of skills on the bottom that you can choose from. And there are 7 different characters you can choose from that you come across one by one as the game progresses, and they each have different forms of attack. One can be a tank that can take a lot of damage but also dish it back. Another could be considered an elemental mage, but of course they don't call her one in the game, and throw in a healer and a few more different types of characters. But you can only use 3 characters per battle. You control one of them, and then the other 2 are AI controlled. And the AI works better for some characters more than others, but for the most part I think the AI worked well. For the most part. But you really do invest in these characters during it. You can customize each of them, and like the armor that you put on them shows up in the cutscenes. You can customize their skills and have them play out the way you want them to. There's this thing called gem crafting. You can either add them to the armor to make them faster, stronger, or more resistant to getting knocked over, which really comes in handy late game. You can also have characters bond with each other in heart-to-hearts, which you can unlock by having certain characters in your party when you're taking quests and helping each other out during battle. You can build affinity between characters, which allows them to work better with each other in battle. And you can build affinity with the locations that you visit, which encourages the NPCs there to give you more quests, items to buy, and character moments. Because the NPCs in each town actually have their own storylines and relationships with each other, but this stuff is all optional, but it's helpful. Now, this is a big, big, big game. It's revealed at the beginning that these 2 titans, the Bionis and the Mechanis, got into a fight at the beginning of time, and they both killed each other. And it turns out that you're living on one of the titans, the Bionis. So there are times where you can look up into the sky and you can make out the titans in the sky. Graphically, the game is okay. Xenoblade Chronicles is one of those games that where things look better the further away they are, which is why it's nice to see the figures in the sky from time to time. When things are up close, it's not bad, but it's not something that's gonna make you go wow, but hey, I'm not holding it against the game, I'm just letting you know. And the game controls fine. There is no motion control whatsoever, so if you're picky about that, don't worry, it won't be an issue. You can either play with the classic controller or the remote nunchuck combination. I personally played with the classic controller though. Now, JRPGs aren't exactly my favorite genre, despite one of them actually being one of my favorite games, but I prefer my games to be more concise and to the point, with an option and a slight temptation to go off the beaten path a bit. This game is just really, really big, with plenty of environments, plenty of quests, and plenty of decent ending content. And while that all sounds good, it's just really not my thing, which made the length of this game really frustrating at times, which is why I like the game instead of loving it. So for all of its heights that this game just achieved, I would gladly just play something a bit simpler. But if you want to put hundreds of hours into a game, this is for you. You will be getting your money's worth, definitely. But while I enjoyed this game, this is definitely like a one-time playthrough for me. As tempting as New Game Plus is, I mean, they allow you to start the game over at the same level you were when you ended the game, and have like the same armor and weapons, and there are some like high level enemies for you to go after early on. Like, it was annoying to see them when I first started playing, but I now understand why they put them there. So there's plenty of endgame content for you, and just gonna breeze through my experiences with the game. There were times where the visuals amazed me because some of these environments are really creative. The story overall is pretty gripping, but with most JRPGs it does delve into that whole seizing your destiny kind of thing, which does make me roll my eyes, and there are some corny moments between the characters. In fact, there are a lot of corny moments between the characters, but you care about them. The voice acting is impressive and well-rounded for the protagonist, but with the exception of the final boss and the Mechon leader, I hated the voice of just about every villain in this game. The music is great. Like, I could tell like a lot of effort was put into that, and I think the theme from Alchemoth was the standout for me, so that one I could probably go back and listen to again. There are moments that kind of felt like filler when there wasn't like a lot going on. You don't really feel like progressing through the game. There are some super frustrating boss fights that will make you pull your hair out. But much like any adventure, you're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, and I think the game greatly reflected on that. But overall, I did have fun with this. Again, this genre isn't really my comfort zone, so it's not something I'm going to like as much as someone else did. But yeah, if this is your genre, that you love the ins and outs of, this is your game. But at the same time, if this is your genre and you're watching this review, you more than likely already own this game and probably beat it before I even got it. You probably had the game before it even came out in the US. So for those of you who simply heard about this and might be interested and saw like the high review scores, again, if this is a genre that you like, yeah, I would recommend that you try it. But this game is a big investment of your time. And I'm not going to score it or really give it a rating because I really just don't feel comfortable doing this, especially with games. So I'll say if you haven't gotten it yet and you think it's something you can get into, maybe it's worth checking out. And if you like this review and you want to see more, why not subscribe? I primarily do movie reviews, but I'm going to try to get into games a little bit more starting next year.